Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Harris with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. This is TITV, as mentioned, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa. I'm Gary Harris, and he's Rodney again. I'm going to just say it because just want to remind folks, because I'm all pumped up because we're less than 7 days from the college football playoff semifinal against Michigan at the Rose Bowl. And today, Rodney, Alabama got on 3 jet planes. That's how many they needed for the traveling party. And they left out of Tuscaloosa. They're now in Los Angeles. We were out at the Malmore Complex this morning to grab some video of the team. They actually staggered the flights. One left, and then another left, then another left. There's Coach Saban. You know they're not leaving without him, I can promise you that. But the Crimson Tide, as I said, 3 planes to get out there. To the surprise of many, Michigan opened as a slight favorite, and they're still a slight favorite. 1.5 points is the latest line, which tells you that, if it matters, money's coming in on both teams just about even. Alabama is playing in a national championship game for the first time in 2 years, trying to win the national championship for the first time in 3 years. The Tide has never gone more than 3 seasons without a national championship under Nick Saban. They can keep that intact. Michigan, meanwhile, hasn't won the national championship since the last time they won the Rose Bowl. Rodney, you'll remember that was following the 1997 season. So they feel like they've got a little karma on their side. They're 13-0. Alabama is 12-1. It should be a good one. And let me bring Rodney in for some analysis. Listen, I had you on my radio show this morning on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. We kind of discussed this, but 6 days out, how you feeling?
Look, I think Alabama, the thing we don't know is which team's going to show up. We've seen a team that, when they're playing really, really well, they're really good. But then, they hit a lull. And I think when you look at this Michigan team, the thing that concerns me about them, Gary, is they're a mature football team. They've been very steady. They're very strong defensively. They run the football. They have a great identity. Now, again, I think the positive thing about Alabama is, as the season's gone along, they've developed that maturity as a team, and they're not turning the ball over as they did earlier in the season. I think if Alabama can protect the football, stop Michigan's run, I think Alabama's in great shape.
To what you just said, though, you're right. This is a mature Michigan team. And let's be honest. This is their 3rd year in a row in the college football playoff. They got embarrassed 2 years ago by Georgia in the semifinal down at the Orange Bowl. And then last year got stunned by TCU in the semifinal. Of course, TCU then got blown out by Georgia. But they feel like it's their time. And, I think Alabama fans can relate. When Saban got here, remember 2008, 12-0? Got T-bowed in the 4th quarter. But that next year, Alabama was on a mission. This Michigan team is on a mission. Now, will they be good enough to beat Alabama? We'll find out. But you do sense they feel like this is their time and they're ready.
Yeah, you're right. They were embarrassed by Georgia. I think they were embarrassed last year to lose that game to TCU the way they did. And you know what, Gary, I'll say this too. It can work both ways. It can work for them, but then again, it can get in their head and work against them as well. I think when you're looking at Alabama, here's the thing. Nick Saban, he knows how to handle a team in this situation. Again, this is, like I said, Jim Harbaugh. They've done a really good job there. They're bringing this Michigan program. They put it in position the last couple of years. But can they take the next step? And I think that's the big question.
Yeah, 10 years of the playoff. This is the 8th time Alabama's been in it. As the Michigan coordinator said in their press conference, we're trying to get to where Alabama is at. And they said they want to approach it as if they're the underdog, but they're not. And again, this is a Michigan team, right? One thing you will say for them, they're not going to beat themselves. They're solid in all 3 phases. Defense, offense, and the kicking game. They're a very fundamentally sound team. Defensively, their numbers are incredible. In every defensive statistic, they can run the football. J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback, can make some plays. Alabama will have to earn this win. I don't think Michigan's going to give them anything.
Look, I know, and there's some people on TiderInsider.com, they talk like, Alabama's going to blow this team out, Michigan's slow, all this stuff. Look, this is a really, really good football team. As Gary said, they're very sound. They give up 9 points a game.
That's phenomenal in this day and age.
Look, I understand, and everybody's out there is probably saying, well, look who they played. And that is true. I mean, they haven't played the most explosive offenses, but at the same time, to hold teams to 9 points on the average throughout the course of the season, Gary, to win the Big Ten championship the way they did, you talked about them running the football. Blake Corum, their running backs, rushed for over 2,500 yards last 2 years. He's got 24 touchdowns on the ground. You mentioned McCarthy, the quarterback. I think he's, when people talk about him, I think he's underrated. He's got thrown for 26 600 yards, 19 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. I know he has maybe less than 200 yards rushing, but he's a threat running the football. I mean, you've got to be able, you can't allow him to get outside and make plays. We saw him do that last year against TCU, so he's athletic.
Yeah, he can run it, and Corum may be as good a red zone running back as there is in the country. All right, now it's time for Coach Talk. The Michigan offense, as we alluded to, is balanced, but not necessarily equal parts run and pass. Wolverines offensive coordinator Sharon Moore, who's done a phenomenal job, explains that to him, balance means being capable to do either or, depending on the situation and the opponent.
Some games we threw it, some games we ran it, and some games we did both. I think that's, at the end of the day, it's all about winning. We continue to do that throughout the year, and that's the plan as we go on January 1st. We just need to go win. We're not worried about proving anybody. We're not worried about anybody's opinions. We're just ready to go attack and go try to win.
Ryan Day was to Urban Meyer, 10 of the 22.
In passing and 6 in rushing in the Big Ten, but when you put that with that top-ranked defense, that's not bad. And they are balanced, and they do have the ability to adapt to the opponent and do some things differently if they need to. I'm really impressed with this team.
You know, look, I mean, sometimes you play these teams and they're not really explosive, but when you play them, they're really physical, they're solid, they run the football extremely well. McCarthy can throw the ball. Roman Wilson, the wide receiver, has 11 touchdown receptions. They do have some guys who can make some plays. They're not the most explosive team, you know, but they have a really solid tight end. Colston Loveland's been really good this year. Gary's a big physical kid, can catch the ball really well. So, like you said, I mean, they're just so solid. And you talked about they play defense, they run the football, and they don't turn the ball over.
And they are physical. And McCarthy, as you said, he's not Jalen Milroe running the football, but he can run it. And when a play breaks down, he can use his legs. We're going to look at some video of him right here. Listen, I think, you know, you watch him, he'll stand in the pocket, he'll go through his, right there he did
Incredible throw.
Yeah, and he can make the throws, and then, like I said, at the last second, a little bit like Jalen, he can pull it down and go with it.
He really can. I mean, I was extremely impressed with him, watching him in the playoffs last year, the way he ran the ball. Look at this right here. I mean, he's a threat. I mean, look, you cannot allow him to hit a crease because he can do it.
That's right. Michigan's a good team. Alabama will need to be on top of its game. Well, still to come on Tider Insider TV, Alabama basketball gets back in the win column. We'll show you a dominant performance they had on Saturday against Eastern Kentucky. And it's another massive signing day haul for the Crimson Tide. We'll break it down with Mr. Tider Insider coming up next. And also later on in the show, of course, our score predictions for the Rose Bowl. And your phone calls and emails, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
Pour les 4 prochaines années, je vais amener mon talent et poursuivre mon parcours sportif et académique à l'Université d'Alabama. Roll Tide!
I was able to make out the Roll Tide. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. That is defensive lineman Steve Mbuamoa last Wednesday giving his commitment, and he signed with Alabama on National Signing Day, and he did it in French. Yeah. It makes sense. Even though he's originally from Cambodia, he moved to Quebec, Canada before high school. He speaks French. He speaks English too, don't worry, but he wanted to do it in French. So he was a guy that Alabama really wanted as a defensive lineman. And Rodney, let's jump into it. The Crimson Tide signing 23 players in a class that is rated second nationally behind only Georgia, their SEC rival. Alabama with 2 5-star recruits, 13 4-star recruits, according to the 247 Sports Composite rankings. Alabama had a couple of flips on Wednesday. Tuscaloosa County running back Kevin Riley signed with Alabama instead of Miami. And Texas wide receiver Bubba Hampton of Dangerfield High School in East Texas signed with the Crimson Tide over Texas. 2 commitments have yet to sign. Of course, 5-star Saraland wide receiver Ryan Williams and 3-star Ramsey linebacker Quentin Reese. So, Rodney, just your overall takeaways on this 2024 class that hopefully isn't finished.
No, I think it's a really good class. You talked about Mbuamoa. We'll just call him Steve M. I mean, he's a guy that on the defensive line, you're always looking for defensive linemen. He's big. He's got the frame to get bigger, Gary. He's extremely athletic. You saw Kevin Riley there. I thought that was a big flip for Miami. Alabama needed a running back in this class. You got the great quarterback in Julian Sayin. You got a great class of wide receivers. Hopefully we think right now that Ryan Williams still plans on signing with Alabama on February the 9th. So, I thought the secondary was really a good group and got some good linebackers. So I thought it was overall a really good class that they will, kind of pad with the portal. So I think it's going to turn out to be a really good additions to the roster next year.
Yeah, let's get to the quarterback, because the way it is now, you're going to sign a quarterback in every class, and you're not going to keep every quarterback that you sign. But Julian Sayin out of the San Diego, California area had been committed for a while. And Rodney, I know you're, as most people are, really high on this young man. He spins it well, very catchable ball. He's athletic, as you can see. He's a winner, and he's a guy that, looks as though he has the potential not just to be a starting quarterback at Alabama, but be a guy that someday could be an All-America candidate.
Yeah, I mean, he's a tremendous passer. People out in California, people that follow the prep scene out there have talked about, he reminds him a lot of Bryce Young. He's maybe a little bigger than Bryce, but he's a guy that, Gary, he's got all the tools as a passer. And you said he's athletic enough to move around, make things happen with his feet. Just very, very smart kid.
Yeah, with Milroe coming back for another season, this battle behind Jalen for the number 2 quarterback spot, Rodney, is going to be something else in spring ball and into the fall.
It really is. See how he made that throw? Yeah. He improvised there to make that throw. You talked about that, Gary. Dylan Lonergan, Ty Simpson's still here, Eli Holstein. All these guys are, really highly recruited players.
All right, Bubba Hampton, the wide receiver. We mentioned him out of East Texas. That's an area that Alabama has really recruited well. And he'd been committed to Texas right up until signing day.
Yep. I really like him. Bubba Hampton, as you said, Aaron Hampton, but he does go by Bubba. He just does everything. I mean, this guy plays wide receiver. He can line up and take snaps as the Wildcat quarterback. He plays defense. He's extremely physical. I mean, when I look at him, I say, you know what? Guess what? If he doesn't play wide receiver, he could be really good in the secondary, whether it's cornerback, whether it's safety. He's a really talented kid.
And speaking of that type of athlete, let's not, because so much focus is on Ryan Williams, and I get it, let's not forget about Jalen Mbakwe. It's Clay Chalkville. Clay Chalkville beat Saraland for the Class 6A title. Mbakwe played quarterback, not because he's going to play quarterback in college, but because that helped his team win. But he also projects as a super potential guy at cornerback.
Is he already playing the Iron Bowl?
Not yet, but he's coming. But Jalen Mbakwe is a superb athlete as well.
I'm telling you, Gary, there's been a time when he probably would have been a quarterback. I mean, you look at him, he throws the ball okay, but he's an incredible athlete that can run. I think probably cornerback, but, you got to somehow get the ball in his hands, too. I think maybe he's a kick return guy, but when you look at Jalen Mbakwe, he's certainly one of the top players in the country.
And we talked about this last week, and again, it's a year-to-year deal, but Nick Saban, so much discussion about how much longer he's going to coach. We know this. As long as he is coaching, he's going to work just as hard on the last days he did in the first day. But this was an effort by not just Nick Saban, but I think obviously he's the head guy. And we saw him those 2 weeks after the SEC championship on the road, Rodney. He was on the road every day.
He was, yeah. And Gary, here's the thing about it, too. People talked about during the season, the way Alabama's season started out, Nick Saban had lost it. He was losing it on the recruiting trail. And then now, here they are. They almost get the number 1 class, and they're playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what everybody else is striving for, and to get to, Alabama has already gotten, is there again. All right, let's get to hoops, because Alabama needed a win, and they got it this past Saturday afternoon at home after losing 3 straight to 3 top 10 teams away from Coleman Coliseum. They came home and, hung 111 on Eastern Kentucky. And when Alabama gets on top of you and you don't have the talent to match up, they can make you look bad. Alabama shot 58% from the field, 19 of 38 from 3. That's incredible, 50%. Bench outscored Eastern Kentucky's reserves 41-3. Complete effort. And EKU, now give them credit. They were down, I think, 29 at the break, and they started the second half on a 13-0 run. And then Alabama still run by more than 40. They can really get away from you. And Rodney, I'll tell you this, before they get into SEC play against Vanderbilt on the road, they got a big game this Saturday in Birmingham, the CM Newton Classic, against a really good Liberty team. It's a game that obviously Alabama needs to get because they already have 5 losses.
You know what? I think, Gary, right now it is a really big game because you want momentum going into the SEC and, that schedule because it's going to be a grind.
All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television, our Bama in the NFL segment. Man alive, I said this on social media. It's a recruiting video for Alabama football every week in the NFL. And we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number 205-348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen, or you can even shoot us a message on Twitter/X, and we'll try to look for it there as well. So we'll be right back with more Tider Insider TV right after this. All right, Bam in the NFL, Rod. We don't have time for everybody, so I'm going to shorten this segment up a little bit, but we're going to start with Amari Cooper because all he did, 11 catches, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns.
That's amazing.
How about that? He has caught, he's had 200-yard receiving games for 3 different teams. That puts him in rare company. I think that's his 4th 200-yard receiving game of his career. 265 yards is the 11th highest amount in the NFL history. It's the Cleveland Browns franchise record. He's getting better with age. Joe Flacco. I mean, Deshaun Watson makes all the money. Flacco may be the guy. Also, Bryce Young had his best game, Rod. He lost a tough one, 33-30 to the Packers, but he went 23 of 36 for 312, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. He really played well in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs, another great game, 80 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry threw another touchdown pass. He does that a lot. He also ran for 88 yards and a touchdown as well. Jalen Hurts sets the NFL rushing record for touchdowns in a season with 15. He threw a 36-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith. Tua led the Dolphins to a big win over the Cowboys. Waddle had a 50-yard catch before he left with a high ankle sprain, unfortunately. Christian Harris had a big game on defense, even though the Texans lost. And Christian Barmore, he's in a free agency year, Rodney. He had 3 sacks for the Patriots. And you know and I know that for interior defensive lineman to get 3 sacks, that's hard to do. He's going to get paid either by the Pats or somebody. So, Bama in the NFL, the beat goes on. And we didn't mention everybody. Can't mention them all every week. All right, we're going to get to phone calls, though. That's why we had to rush through that. Let's get to Tim right here in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Rodney, how y'all doing?
Doing well.
Got a question. With the ESPN taking over all the SEC games, will the SEC network still show SEC games on Saturdays?
Yeah, Tim, they sure will, because the SEC network is basically owned by ESPN. So, yes, the SEC network will be in that rotation. The only one that you won't see that's dropping off will be CBS. And that was the contract, and that's the, ABC and ESPN family of networks will have all of the games, but that includes ESPN2, the SEC network, and their different channels that they have. Thank you for the phone call. All right, let's get to Rick over in Brent. Hey, Rick.
Fine. How are y'all tonight?
Doing well.
Great. Well, our 3 losses in basketball was the big men and the people fouling out. Why didn't we go to a zone, or does he just stay away from that?
Rick, I trust Coach Oates and what he's been able to do since he's been here. I do think this. I don't know why they didn't play more zone, or Rodney, but I will get you to chime in. I do think the problems that they're having, you're not going to see them against most teams. They're just too good. But against the Tennessee coming up in the SEC, a Kentucky, even an Auburn with Broome inside, the issues that they've had early in the year, I think they'll continue to have them even once they get into February and March if they don't make some type of adjustment defensively.
Gary, I said this. I don't know what you think about it, but I thought Bediako.
Oh, that was a huge loss.
Yes,
they were counting on having him back, yeah. And they don't have the rim protection, and it shows. But, Rick, you make a great point. I do think they're going to look at that because, again, we'll see when they play those type of teams if they're able to play better on defense and keep guys from fouling out, because it has been strange. All right, we're going to get to the break, and we'll come back with more TITV, more of your phone calls, and our email question of the day right after this. More phone calls in a moment, but first let's get to our email question of the day, and it's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. Here's the question. Is Ja'Cory Brooks gone, or will he play in the Rose Bowl? Rodney, I think he's moved on to Louisville. I think he's out of here.
Looks like it. And Ja'Cory has not played a lot this season, so they'll be fine.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, he went ahead, and sometimes the guys will go in the portal and they'll stay. We got Buckner, the quarterback. He's going to be out there before he leaves, but no, Brooks has moved on. All right, let's get to the phone calls. Bill in Birmingham first up. Hey, Bill.
Hey, guys. Roll Tide. Great to be in the Rose Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on a national scale, how do you think we, in the recruitment of the defensive line, how do you think we compare to the other schools? Roll Tide, man.
Well, look, I think last year they had a really good class. They got James Smith. He was one of the elite defensive linemen, in the country. They got Jordan Renaud, who I think is going to be a great player. They got Edric Hill, who's a really good player out of Kansas City. They got Hunter Osborne from up in the Birmingham area. So I think they were solid last year, probably pretty good, actually. This year, again, I think it's a really solid class. All the guys they got are good players. I think really what it comes down to is they're good enough to be really exceptional SEC-type players. It's development. How do you develop those players that you get? And I think all of them have that potential.
All right, real quickly, Caleb in Hubbardville. Hey, Caleb.
Hey, guys. I hope y'all had a good Christmas.
Yes, sir.
And I hope to be smelling a lot of roses Monday night.
Gotcha.
But my question is, will we get anybody else out of the transfer portal?
Transfer portal, Rodney. What's the working there?
Well, I would sure think so. And again, Nick Saban made it pretty clear the other night. You remember this, Gary. He talked about we want some more offensive tackles with experience. Mm-hmm. Well, you can only find the guys with experience in the portal. Yeah, they're still looking in the portal. It may be a little while. He also made it clear that they're going to focus on this game and then, of course, hopefully win the game in the next one. So that's where their focus is now. But, yeah, I think they're going to be very active in the portal.
Thanks for the phone calls and emails. Prediction time on the Rose Bowl when we come back. All right, it's score prediction time. CFP semifinal at the Rose Bowl, Rodney, Alabama and Michigan.
Hey, look, when I look at this game, I think the key is Alabama cannot turn the ball over. We talked about how, Michigan is a really solid team. You can't give them anything. And I think if Alabama doesn't, if they stop Michigan's run, this is Alabama. It's 24-20.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a score that's going to be a little bit wider margin than that. But I can tell you this. It's not because I think it's going to be a wide-open game. I think it's going to be a really close game. I just think Alabama's talent level over 4 quarters is going to be enough. I got Bama winning this one by double digits, Rodney.
Wow.
31-21 is the final. But I'm thinking it's 24-21 late, and Alabama seals it on a long drive to put it away and win the college football playoff semifinal and head on to the national championship game in Houston. All right, that's going to do it for Tider Insider TV. A reminder that you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night. Next Tuesday night, we'll know if Alabama's playing for a national championship. Talk to you then.